Well, hello. Before going to sleep yesterday, I was listening to a monk of Vedanta Society. His name was Swami Sarva Priyanand, and he was talking about that how can we see God in everything, despite what we do, what we see, what our beliefs are. It doesn't matter. What matters is that how do we develop an approach to see God in every action, in everything, irrespective of whether it is alive or dead. Let's categorize it in living object or non living object. Let's suppose I have this book. So, can I see God in this? And let's suppose if there is a man, can I see God in that? If yes, how? And why do I need to have this kind of approach? Or having the knowledge that a man is alive, can God be in that? I mean, what are the standards on the basis of which one can believe that God is in this or God is in that? First, we need to do away with this misconception that God is like a human being. And this is what Sadhguru had said once, that how could a buffalo think of God? How will God be appearing for a buffalo? So that's a very important question. Because we are humans, we always think of God in human form. But what about a cow, or what about a buffalo, what about a lion, what about any other animal? Will God be in that form, or is it just our thinking, a manifestation of human mind? Have the animals thought about such things? Do they really care about of God? Do they really care about where is God? Where does he lie? But why this topic is so much of important for a human being, or for the whole of the humanity, not just for me or for any particular person? God has always been a debatable topic. We think of God when we get into some kind of contingency, something bad happens with us. We thank God when we achieve something or something good happen with us. Something good things happen. What do? We thank God. We show our reverence to God. But on the contrary, we also get angry. This is a very different situation where a human being treating God as like a personality. And now, when I say personality, personality involves a lot of things. It involves how do a person sit, or how does a person eat, how does he talk, how does he play, how does he do all the things a human being does. So that is the question, that can God be equivalent to human? But why Upanishads and scriptures differ from this point of view? Why do they differ? This is a very important question. That they do not believe, or they do away, they completely reject, which is called outrightly rejected concept that we have in our mind, that God is like a human being. The scriptures say that God is eternal, omnipotent, and omnipresent. He is formless. So, can we say that God is a form of energy? And how can we realize that God? This is a very this is a very complex topic open to debate, and debate has been going on. There are conflicting views. One religion says no, this is not right. The others confronts and reciprocates, they present a different view, but there is a lack of conclusion. Now the question arises, can we really reach onto a conclusion? Is it possible to reach? Because if I reach to one conclusion, I am rejecting all other theories, or let's say beliefs. It is as if I am putting my belief over others' belief. So, is there any space when the topic in itself is very vague and complex? I am using the word vague because God is formless. This is a very objective analysis that I am doing, that we cannot see God. This is a fact. This is not something a myth. This is a fact that we cannot see God. If I say that God looks like this book, for somebody this will not be true. Somebody will say, no, God looks like something else. So, what is the common thing that we can bring into it in order to understand that what I believe, what I have understood by all these debates and discourses, is that it is difficult to encapsulate God in any form. God is not something which can be defined. There is no definition available in any part of the world, and nobody can do that. Though we can have some features, characteristics, but after that also we will be far away from the definition. When we say definition, we try to bring something between two ends, that a particular thing will fit into these two areas. But God is not like that. Most of the people have a very misconception that God will be like a human being, he will be talking in Hindi, he will be talking in English. What we need to understand is that languages have been developed by us, whether be it English, whether be it Hindi, or any other language on this face of the earth, be it Hebrew, be it Pali, be it Sanskrit, we all have developed this language. Languages have been developed by the efforts of the human being, which is need to be understood. Because suppose right now if I am speaking English, next moment I can be speaking Hindi also. So will that change the conception of God? Will it bring any structural change in the debate? No, it will not bring, because these things are related to human, and human beings have the tendency to look things at very upper level of a concept, or let's say an entity, which brings in the concept of materialism. This is an object, and God is not an object. Our body is an object, but the soul is not an object, because we cannot see it. We can hear the sound, this is an object. But if I say somebody to please point me out where is sound, they will not be able to do that, because they don't know where the sound is, because this is in the experience of the human mind. We experience such things. We speak. Even if I move my mouth, my lips, it will appear as if I am trying to speak. But if I will have no vocal cord, there is no use of moving the lips. The movement of lips will be useless. So, this is how the things also conflict with each other. We see the body, but we don't know what is inside. Now, many people, let's take this example that a human body consists of a liver, a kidney, a heart. We all have studied that the heart is the pumping organ of the body. Heart supplies blood to every corner of the body. But have we seen by our naked eyes a heart? Do we see heart in daily life? No, we do not see. But the body is functioning and we are living. And this has been going on since the existence of humankind. So, in the similar way, there is something inside us which we do not see because this is not an object. And we need to have this misconception do away and completely done away because we want to see this in object form, which is not possible. What is that force which drives the human body? Somebody says that, look, we eat food and the food goes inside. Now, tell me, the food that we intake through the esophagus, is the esophagus a living entity? Just because it is part of the body, what is esophagus? Is it a living organ or a dead organ? How can we justify it? Is tongue alive? How do we know that? This is a very difficult question. Somebody can say, look, medically and biologically, because we can test it. So the lungs or tongue, they are working, so they are alive. But what is that thing which is making that tongue work? This is very important, and this needs to be understood because this duality has to be understood if we want to know what is the disability of human body. Human body is not indivisible. Human body is divisible. That the problem is that we do not see that. We do not see that because we always look on the surface of the body, which is the skin, because our senses are limited to the five organs, which is the skin, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears. But how does it happen? How does the brain work? Who has put in the energy in order to make this body function? And why does a person go in coma? What what gets missed out? That needs to be understood, that why does a person not function or do normal things when a person goes into a coma state? Even the medical science has not been able to answer this because medical science is still is working on the very upper level of the consciousness. The consciousness is at the very deep of the human mind. We have not been able to understood what is mind actually. Well, somebody can say that a mind is a circular object which is found inside the cranium or the skull of the human body. But these are not the definitions. This is just some of the features that we have perceived by our five senses. How do we know that the human mind or human brain is circular from the upwards? Because we have seen that. So we need to do away this we need to do away with this misconception, and scriptures do help us in doing away with this misconception, because we do not understand the basics, because we don't know our body. We look at and we focus on the features, but features won't help to understand the deep intricacies of the human body. A mind is just a part. Somebody can say that, look, the mind coordinates the movement of all the human parts of the body. But understand this, brain is also a part of that. Though it could be a central figure, because if somebody loses a limb or a leg, still the function of the body won't be effective, because a human will not die. Human will not die because this is not the central part, because most of the coordinations are controlled and coordinated by the nervous system. Now we all know that there are two types of nervous systems in our body, which is, first one is central nervous system, the second one is PNS, peripheral nervous system. The a spinal cord is the support to the human body. We have been able to stand on our feet because the human spinal cord helps us to stand and move. But the spinal cord won't be effective if I will not have, or anybody will not have, a leg. What a person can do in that situation? Certainly, the person will need some kind of external support and assistance. Medical science has a very different approach. Medical science needs a body in order to understand a human body. But human consciousness is something which is apart from the human body. That's why scriptures do not talk about the human body too much. It is dealt in the initials of the scriptures, but most of the part of the scriptures deal with the inner things, such as the consciousness, emotions. I'm not saying that medical science has not worked on that, or medical science is completely silent on those aspects too, but they do not have the adequate knowledge, or we can say that they are still in the process. So let's talk about Machiavelli. Now, the concept of universal egoism. This concept talks about that a human being is a selfish being. He has this tendency to accumulate more and more, and there is no limit to it. And this is applicable to every person who is alive on this earth, be it a beggar or be it a king. Even a king has the same thirst for power, position, and influence. The king has the wish to have influence on the subjects. But what about an individual who is living in the kingdom of that particular king? Does that person not have any kind of wish? Certainly he has wish, and there is a difference between having a wish and being a selfish individual. When we fulfill, or when our wishes get fulfilled, and then also we clinch for more, that is the state of selfishness, because we forget and we do not understand actually where does this where does this line come, or where does this line is actually situated. We cross it and we reach to a level where we do not understand that actually we have become so greedy that we can do anything for it. We can go to any extent and we can commit anything. Any commission of the act can be done, be it legally right or wrong. So, the book which was written by Machiavelli was The Prince, and there are two different aspects that have been dealt, and it has been well compared as well, because in the first chapter, or in the first half, he has discussed about a king who wants to rule over the people, and in the second half of the book he has talked about the individual. Now he is not taking into account the king, he is taking into account the actions of a person, let's say any person who is living in a kingdom, or let's say a state. Let's suppose if I am living in Bihar, what are my intentions and what are my wishes? Do I want them to get fulfilled? And how will I do that? And why do I have restrictions over my action? What is important is that the king decides what king has to do, but the king also decides indirectly what an individual can do. So, even if we are living in a democratic society, though we can say that we have certain rights, those are given to us against the state, and the state has the obligation to implement it. But is it not true the state decides what will be the laws on a particular subject or a particular issue? Can we say that democracy is a free state? The conception of utopian state, is it not a dystopia? So when he says universal egoism, what we need to understand is this, that that he brings the king and the individual at the level playing field. As an individual, the king is also an individual, and all the other things such as the state, the army, the administration, what makes the administration? Administration is made by the people. Who have been working in the administration? The people. Some people are chosen and then they are given certain tasks to perform. So, who do they interact with? They interact with people. So, is it not some kind of restriction being imposed on the individual? What my understanding says is that the Machiavelli tries to analyze that how this relationship is not a relationship based on equality. Who is trying to overcome whom? Because the power is concentrated in the hands of one person, he can easily manipulate and he can easily impose any kind of restrictions he wishes to impose. He decides how will the administration will work. He will decide which road will be built. He will decide what action will be a crime and what will not be crime. Now in the book he discusses that it is right for the state to kill a person, but for an individual it is not right. Now, how has he backed his argument is that he says that if the action of the state is good for the people, then it is right. If it is not, then it is wrong. But for an individual, even if he kills a person, murders a person, because he was in some kind of pain, or that person who was murdered was causing problem or was irritating, or let's say did something wrong which was morally not right. Now understand this, that Machiavelli does not take into account the morality as a factor. There is no space of morality, because when we discuss about monarchy, the first thing that we do away with is morality. The king can use morality in the administration. Now that is done in order to have the influence over the people, because he wishes to have control over them. And the same thing goes in democracy to some extent, though it is not to that extent which prevails in a monarchy, or let's say a constitutional monarchy, uh, or in a or in an absolute monarchy. But still the king has this ambition to have control over the people, because people are selfish. Now this is a contradicting statement. Why they are selfish? Because they want to be independent. But what is that a king does in order to not let people go out of his clutches? What he does, that he gives them protection. He gives them protection from the enemy state. He promises that there will be no injustice to them. There will be a justice system. But who is the ultimate authority? The king. But in constitutional morality, or let's because when we talk about constitution, we always include the part morality. Why do we need morality? This is also a debatable topic, because the state has certain functions to perform, and while performing those functions, the state is bound to cause or to violate the certain rights, or let's say the privileges that a citizen has. Look, in monarchy there is no word such as citizen, because citizens have certain rights, and citizens have right to stand up against the state and can ask for remedy. But in subject in a monarchy, the subject doesn't have such privileges. But there are different kinds of privileges. If I say that monarchy is a subset of democracy, then to some extent I will not be wrong. There is certainly an overlapping. So Machiavelli tries to bring in and tries to show to the world that look, the world functions on double standards. And he also says that in monarchy there is no scope of capitalism. Now this is a very big statement that I am making, because he also says that a king should not rely upon mercenaries, because they do not have allegiance to anybody. Whoever will pay them more, their allegiance will shift to that side. So the king needs to have a standing army at his disposal. So that's how it gives birth to a permanent army working for the state. Now I will talk about David Hume. He was an empiricist, believed that substantive knowledge was derived from sense experience. Unlike his predecessors and heirs, in that tradition who sought to provide a rational basis to our ordinary beliefs, Hume, a skeptic, concluded that many beliefs included those about causation and had no such rational basis. Now, is he not questioning God when I say, or when he talks about rationality? Now, can we believe on God on the basis of being a rational being? Can a rational human being believe, or does rationality give a space to beliefs? This is the very first question. That how can we have faith over something which we don't see? There is always a debate going on that he exists in this form, in that particular form, or in that structure. He resides here, he resides inside us, he resides in a tree, he resides in an animal. But does rationality give a space to beliefs? And if I am rational, can I have the, an option to have belief? Now beliefs do change, but when he says that our ordinary beliefs, he is skeptical. Why? Is he trying to being an atheist, or is he trying to be an agnostic? Now then he further explains that in what reference he is trying to being a rational person. But first we need to define what is rationality. How can I be a rational person? Now, if I hate somebody, can I be called a rational person? What are the standards? What are the standards that are to be fulfilled in order to be called a rational being? If I hate, if I kill, now it is said that if a person kills another human being, that person cannot be rational. But can consciousness be equated with rationality? What is rationality and what is consciousness? If I am killing a person, I am aware that that person will be dead if I perform certain act on his body, if I poke a knife into his belly. But can it be called a rational act? Now this is very a conflicting view which is coming together, and it is putting me into a very vague situation where I cannot talk about it, because it's overlapping each other. I will not say that it is the subset of rationality. Consciousness is the subset of uh, rationality, or rationality is the subset of consciousness. Then he says that how does a belief form? How do we form beliefs? If I say that, how, look, there is always a factor of fear. If I say that the god resides, or let's say a ghost resides on a tree, on a branch of a tree, is this a belief or is it a fact? Certainly this is not a fact, because this is not true for everybody. This is something which is in my mind, and I believe that if I will go there, or if I will try to harm that tree, that ghost will retaliate and he will try to hurt me. I will be injured. This is the belief. This is how I think. But what we need to understand is that what is that stimuli which leads to the formation of a belief? It is the fear. Sometimes it is fear, sometimes fear induces faith, and then it leads to formation of a very concrete faith. Faith becomes belief. Now this is also a very vague term, that can belief or is belief a faith? If not, why not? If yes, how? So then he says that all the interests of a human are centered around the social origins and the functions of morality, based on the conviction that man was essentially a moral being with reverence for justice, which was possible only in civil society, since government made justice firm and secure. So, is he not saying that humans cannot function without a government? We always need an organization over our head in order to look us. Now the same things communism says. Not communism. Actually, it is the lesser degree of that is socialism. So we need government in order to ensure that everybody gets the due part of his share. But in socialism, we try to impose an artificial equality over the people. If I am working hard, why would I not be rewarded more? And why would a person get the same amount of reward who is working less than me, or who has put less efforts than me? Why would he be rewarded equally to me? So this is a very valid question, and I can't say this that the equality is a natural concept. No, equality is not a natural concept. Neither nor equality nor equity. So because civil society, that means we were not civilized. How has the civilization begin? That is a question. And what is significant about Hume is that he discarded the social contract theory, and that too on the basis of historical backgrounds and on the basis of explanation. He outrightly rejected those grounds, those two grounds which were backed in order to prove the social contract theory. They were rejected. But he did not do away with the concepts of political rights and duties. So instead of social contract theory, what was that he brought in place of that? What replaces social contract theory? He said that the rights are more better than social contract theory. Now he has his own views, but if I go into it, that his critique of social contract theory could be broadly grounded under four headings. That the theory made an appeal to general opinion of mankind, and Hume contended that this premise of the theory was disproved with the contemporary example, except for the lone example of England. Most of the present governments, except for some stray cases, were not established to consent and social contract, so there was no universal acceptance of the theory. Now he believes that if something can be applied universally, then it could be accepted as a theory. Otherwise, it cannot be called as a theory because it is not being followed all across the world, and it is not part of the political system all across the world. It cannot be called universal. So that's how, and the first reason which he gives in order to disprove that social contract theory can be applied all across the world. Now this contrarian view is based on the contemporary polities, that how monarchy has been functioning. Maybe he did not know that it was evolving, that evolution was happening. He did not know that. Then he also writes a book called Treatise of Human Nature, as contributing very little to the science of human nature. Hume also contended that the governments rested on individual needs arising out of human nature. This was his most distinctive contribution. His defense of authority and obedience made him a conservative like Burke. However, unlike Burke, who exalted virtues of tradition and convention, obligation was possible, the contract theory was inadequate. Then we talk about Adam Smith, and in which he writes a book called An Inquiry into Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations, which he had written in 1776. And for the first time, he gave the theory of capitalism. That as a theory, capitalism first appeared in the book which he had written in 1776, more than more than 250 years ago. But for a very long period of time, all the different polities, nations, they followed the concept which were introduced by Adam Smith, that demand and supply are the two invisible hands of an economy. The state has no role to play in it. And view that's how and this is the view which was later rejected in 20th century, when we got to witness the crashing of the stock markets in 1929, when rapidly and suddenly all the stocks became zero, and a lot of investors had to incur heavy losses, and to some extent that they become bankrupt. Even the banks did not have money to advance loans to the people who were in need. So there was cash crunch. The same thing we witnessed in 2008. So all the economists said that there was a bubble which had started forming from the beginning of the year 2004, and by the time 2008 reached, it had already reached to its highest form, and all of a sudden it burst and it caused havoc. So same thing happened, what happened in 1929. So this is like a cycle. In capitalism, there is always a hype at a certain point, then it starts to decline, then it resurges, and then it reaches to its highest point. There is never a straight line because capitalism works on the two invisible hands which are called demand and supply. But Keynesian economics says that government intervention is necessary in order to pull the market, in order to generate the demand, and the government also needs to provide assistance in order to supply goods. How can we stimulate the growth in an economy? So Keynesian theory and Smithian theory, they both are contrary to each other. He says that there is no need at all of the government intervention in order to generate demand. Or if there is a problem on the supply side, the market and the economy itself will sort out that problem. The government always needs to stand away from the economy. No need to even do the work of a regulatory authority. The government has nothing to do with that. But what we need to understand is that if government will not impose taxes, how will government will earn the money? This is a very important question because currently what is done? That government imposes tax, we pay GST, we pay income tax. So the wealth of nation is referred to and quoted more than any other treatise in social sciences. In fact, it is no exaggeration to say that modern economics as a discipline begins with a school, which what that was what I just said, that he is the father of economics. Now, for him, what was economics? What is the definition of economics? Economics is the sum total of production, distribution, and management. The circulation of money in economy. If I advance a loan to a person who wants to start a business, he will definitely use the other means in order to start that business, and that's how the money will trickle down and others will also have money in the pocket, and that's how it will generate demand. So the title of the first two chapters of the moral sentiments entitled Of Sympathy and the Wealth of Nations entitled Of Division of Labor explain the essence of Smith's perception of the core ethics and economics. Smith's ethical questions relate to the nature of moral judgments. The key criteria are approval or disapproval. The deliberate use of the word sympathy means that one feels and shares the feeling of the other person. Property, merit, and sympathy means that one feels and shares the feeling of other person. The appropriateness the of the action is described by Smith. The man whose sympathy gives time to my grief cannot but admit the reasonableness of my sorrow. Okay. The Wealth of Nation analyzes the working of the modern economic system and also recommends free trade and laissez-faire, a policy for proper economic management. So when I say that the government needs to stand away from the economy, this is mean what it means. It means simply that we need to have a system of free trade where the government is not imposing anything, not even tax. So this will do what? This will encourage the investors to come in and invest, and by doing that, they will generate income. But with the time, it also witnessed that the free trade leads to a situation called monopoly, that unfair trade practices are developed by the investors and they try to resort to all kinds of unfair means in order to generate profit. It is not good for the market to have just one seller and many buyers, because what he will do is that he will manipulate the price as per his convenience, and the buyers will have to pay because they have no other choice. Where will they go? So when there are many buyers and there are many sellers, it is good for the economy because it develops an environment of competition, and it also keeps the prices under limit. Because if I have to buy 1 kg of sugar, and if the trader demands me that I need to pay 1,000 rupees for that, then I think this is completely unreasonable. This cannot be justified by any other mean. So that's why, that suppose the buyer, or let's say the seller had bought a kg of sugar from a person in 50 rupees. Now if he is selling the same amount of 1 kg of sugar in market at rupees 1000, don't you think this is a sheer case of profiteering? So this should not be allowed at all. So he also talks about the division of labor, that there are blue collar workers, white collar workers, pink collar workers. Those who are engaged in this particular sector, they are called this type of color of workers. So he says that, look, the division of labor he explained by giving the simple example of manufacture of pins. 10 men work together sharing 18 simple operations produces 50,000 pins a day. In contrast, a man without a special machine and division of labor could not have produced more than just one pin. So technology also plays a very important role in the development of a nation, because development of a nation depends on the health of the economy. If the economy is not performing, it is certain that the nation will not be in good condition, because if people have no money to spend, how will they afford the basic necessities of daily life? The government will not have much money because government earns mostly by imposing taxes, and they levy taxes and they collect taxes from the people on the trade. So what Smith says, cannot be completely relied, because cannot be completely implemented, because it is not possible to implement it, not in globalization era.